What if one of America's most popular vacation lakes was built on top of a violent racial purge, a drowned town, and hundreds of people who were never meant to be found? This is not fiction. This is Lake Lanier, a place where memory was buried beneath the water, and the past was never allowed to rest. Families come here to swim, to boat, to celebrate summer under the sun. But beneath those shimmering waves lies a forgotten world: streets, homes, churches, and graves swallowed by the lake decades ago. Long before this was a playground, it was a living town. A community that was erased by violence, then quietly erased again by rising water. Every ripple moves over what was once someone's life. Every shadow below hides a story that was never finished. Lake Lanier is not just a lake. It is a history that refuses to stay buried. Lake Lanier, officially known as Lake Sidney Lanier, was created in the 1,950 seconds to supply water, generate electricity, and control flooding for the rapidly expanding city of Atlanta. It was engineered to support growth, comfort, and modern life across the region, transforming once quiet farmland into one of the most important reservoirs in the American South. From the surface, it looks peaceful. Sunlight dances across the water. Boats drift slowly through gentle waves. Families gather along the shoreline, swimming, laughing, and enjoying long summer days. To most visitors, Lake Lanier feels like a place of escape, a place to relax, to forget the pressures of everyday life, and to breathe under open skies. But beneath that calm surface lies something far more unsettling. Before this lake ever existed, this land was not empty. It was filled with homes, churches, roads, and cemeteries. It was alive with people, with voices, with ordinary lives unfolding. At the heart of it all stood a town called Oscarville, a real community that once stood where the water now rests, quietly waiting beneath the surface, preserved in darkness, beyond what the eye can see. Oscarville was once a thriving black community in Forsyth County, Georgia. In the years after the Civil War, families here owned land, built businesses, and raised children with the hope of building a future that could finally belong to them. This was not a forgotten settlement. It was a living town, shaped by work, faith, schools, churches, and everyday life. People farmed the land. Shop owners served their neighbors. Children walked familiar roads to class. Weddings were celebrated. Funerals were held. Generations grew together. But in 1912, everything changed. Racial violence swept through the county. Homes were burned to the ground. Families were threatened, attacked, and forced to run for their lives. Those who fled were warned never to return. Their land, their homes, and their livelihoods were taken from them. Oscarville was erased not by time, but by fear and hatred. Decades later, when the government purchased this land to create Lake Lanier, what remained of Oscarville was not treated as a place of history. The buildings, the roads, and even the graveyards were never fully removed. They were simply flooded, sealing an entire community beneath the water, where its story still waits to be remembered. Beneath Lake Lanier today lie the remains of a forgotten town. What once stood in open daylight now rests in cold, silent water, hidden from the world above. Entire streets, homes, and places of worship still exist down there, frozen in place, just beyond human sight. Divers and sonar surveys have revealed what still survives beneath the surface. House foundations, old dirt roads, wooden fences, fields that once grew crops, and even cemeteries that were never fully relocated before the water arrived. These are not scattered fragments. They form a complete landscape, a real town, still arranged exactly where people once lived, worked, and were laid to rest. But this submerged world is not calm. The remains of Oscarville create a deadly maze of beams, roots, collapsed walls, and tangled debris. Boats can strike structures they cannot see. Swimmers can be pulled into sudden drop-offs. Divers can become trapped inside doorways and corridors that were never meant to exist underwater. Down there, nothing is simple. Currents slide through broken windows. Silt drifts like fog through abandoned rooms. Shadows stretch across the outlines of forgotten lives. Oscarville was not destroyed. It was sealed. And beneath Lake Lanier, that buried town still waits locked in darkness, holding the weight of a history that refuses to disappear. Lake Lanier is one of the deadliest lakes in America. Since it was created, more than 700 people are believed to have lost their lives here, through drownings, boating accidents, and disappearances that were never fully explained. On the surface, it looks peaceful. Water shimmers in the sunlight. Boats drift across gentle waves. But beneath that calm lies a very different world. Rescue teams are regularly called to this lake. They deploy sonar and underwater vehicles, scanning through darkness, debris, and sunken structures in search of missing bodies. The remains of the drowned town below turn every search into a dangerous mission, filled with hidden obstacles and shifting currents. The water may look calm, but below it, Lake Lanier holds a legacy of loss that never truly rests. Over time, tragedy at Lake Lanier slowly transformed into legend. As years passed and memories faded, stories took root in the silence. Locals began to speak in hushed tones about the Lady of the Lake, believed to be the spirit of a woman who lost her life in a car accident near the water in the 1,950 seconds. Some say she appears along the shoreline when the fog rolls in. Others claim she drifts beneath the surface, moving where the light can no longer reach. People who spend time on the lake describe things they cannot easily explain. Footprints appearing on the lake bed, as if someone had walked across the sand beneath the water. Sudden cold currents passing through otherwise calm depths. Strange lights flickering far below the surface, where nothing should be glowing. And voices captured on underwater recordings, faint and distant, but unmistakably human. Whether these stories are real or not almost no longer matters. What matters is why so many people continue to experience them. Legends grow where history was never allowed to heal. They form in places shaped by loss, by buried memories, and by lives that were cut off without closure. Lake Lanier does not only hold water, it holds the echoes of a past that still refuses to fade. Lake Lanier may be easy to reach, but it is one of the most dangerous places in America to explore beneath the surface. Just a few feet below the waterline, sunlight disappears completely. Darkness takes over. Thick clouds of silt drift through the water like fog, swallowing visibility and turning every movement into uncertainty. Hidden inside that murky world are submerged buildings, fallen trees, collapsed roads, and forgotten graves. Together, they form a tangled maze of beams, roots, and debris capable of trapping boats, pulling swimmers into sudden drop-offs, and disorienting even experienced divers. What looks calm from above becomes hostile below. And yet sonar continues to reveal something far more unsettling. Beneath the shifting layers of silt, it detects straight lines, walls, foundations, and streets, the unmistakable geometry of a town that should no longer exist. What history tried to erase, the water has preserved. Oscarville was never truly removed. It was sealed. And beneath Lake Lanier, that lost town still lies in the dark, quietly waiting, holding the weight of a past that refuses to disappear. So what is really hidden beneath Lake Lanier? Not gold, not pirate chests, not ancient riches waiting to be claimed. What lies below is something far more powerful. It is a community that was erased, a town that was drowned, a history pushed into darkness, a truth that refuses to disappear, no matter how deep it was buried. This is the real treasure, not something to be taken, but something to be remembered. A story America tried to forget, still waiting beneath the surface. And that is what we search for here. If you believe the greatest treasures are not always made of gold, but of memory, history, and hidden worlds, subscribe to Vaults of Eternity, where we continue to uncover what lies beneath the surface.